Well, let's take a look at how the market has performed today, particularly the JSE, seeming that it has taken quite a knock today with pressure that we are seeing across the board from the US markets to the European markets. Asian markets also traded quite mixed before their handover to the JSE. So looking at that board there, blood red, all share declining more than 1.5%. The resources 10 complex carrying the bulk of those losses, slumping almost 2.5%. A knock on the financial 15 of 2%, and the industrial 25 giving up more than 1%. And joining me for further analysis of those market moves is Andrew Padoa from Sasfin Wealth. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew. Quite a terrible picture that we are seeing on that front, the opposite of the color that I'm wearing today. Would have been lovely to see some green today as we come back from the holiday. There's been a narrative of a year-end rally, but seeming that the markets are not about it today. Even the rand's actually taken quite a big knock today, back to over 18 rand against the US dollar. What's pushing those markets down?
Thanks, Anati. It's hard to tell. I think, it just started in China and it just followed through this side. I see the States, they're down, but not at the kind of the levels that we were down today. We kind of got off to a decent start, though, on the JSE. If I look from like 9 till 9:15, it looked pretty good. And then it was kind of like a tire with a puncture. It just slowly just got worse over the course of the day. Like you said, all the big major sectors lower, down over 1%. Fairly quiet in terms of company news and economic news, so it's kind of difficult to kind of pinpoint exactly what's going on.
All right. Well, let's take a look at a potential catalyst. Of course, as this is going on, this is the day that the Fed kicks off its two-day meeting. Of course, we will be getting that interest rate decision tomorrow evening. Expectations for that?
I think expectations are for a 25 basis point cut in the meeting. I think there's a very, very high probability of a cut this week, and that'll mark the third cut in a row. But I think the focus will be what happens now. What's it going to look like in 2025? I think it's given that we'll see the rate cut now. I think the Fed may be a little bit slower to bring rates down than what people think in 2025. The Fed got it horribly wrong in 2021. With inflation, inflation is like the dragon you want to keep in a cage. You don't want to let it out like we did in 2021. So I think they'd rather err on the side of being cautious and make sure that inflation's down before they bring rates down as well.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's that time of the year where a lot of companies are wrapping up approvals for the deals that they have been doing. Let's start off with Mete. They gave us an update on the disposal of the Turkish business, but also the acquisition of AutoZone and also its debt restructuring. I mean, this is a company that has dealt with a number of headwinds. What did you make of what they gave us today, but also really prospects going forward after all these deals?
Yeah, so I'll start on the AutoZone side of things. So, cars are expensive. So the aftermarket market for vehicles, it just makes common sense. Most people are likely to hold on to their existing cars and try and maintain it instead of buying new cars. And I put myself in this category. New cars are just crazy expensive. If you look at AutoZone in the States, they are listed in the US, and their share price, well, them and O'Reilly Automotive are the kind of two dominant players in this space. And they've compounded at almost 20% per annum in USD for the last decade, way ahead of the S&P 500. So it's definitely an industry that's got secular tailwinds. On the Turkish side of things, look, it went horribly wrong in Turkey, and unfortunately Mete is just growing along, is part of now a long list of South African companies that went offshore to try and get growth and have come back with a bloody nose. The debt levels are high, so I think that's something they've got to factor in going forward. So interesting kind of corporate activity there, and we'll see how it plays out in 2025.
All right. Well, let's talk about Telkom, because ICASA has approved the disposal of their masts and towers business. Quite interesting, because Telkom has had seen quite a rally recently, but today taking a little bit of a knock, but maybe less than the highs that we have seen recently. Expected, and everything is going according to plan here?
So I think Telkom's results came out, I think it was last month, and they made it clear that they want to focus on their data-led strategy. So, with the sale of these towers, it allows them to focus on their core operations and help them to also reduce their debt levels as well and strengthen their balance sheet. So it all kind of seems steps in the right direction for Telkom at this stage.
All right. Well, talking about the right direction, let's get to your stock pick for today. Andrew, what are you choosing?
Sure. So my stock pick tonight is Canadian-based Constellation Software. So the easiest way to describe them, they kind of like the Berkshire Hathaway of software. They focus on buying vertical market software companies that provide mission-critical software to businesses. So very, very niche software, but fantastic track record. Over the long run, what really matters for investors is quality of the management, quality of the business, quality of the management's capital allocation decisions, and they tick all three boxes for me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights today on what has moved investors' money. That was Andrew Padoa from Sasfin Wealth with your markets wrap.